Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Butterfly Princess Show. Today, we're recording episode 2 of my collaboration with Jack Mussard, who's a PhD student in sorry, have I?
Yeah.
In biology, and he's also a private tutor. In this episode, me and Jack are going to be discussing the role of colour in biology. Now, this is quite interesting, but I'm sure Jack will have a lot to say about this with him being a PhD student in biology. So, hi, Jack. Thank you for joining me again.
Hi, Steph.
So, why do you want to talk about the specific subject of colour in biology? What role does colour play in biology?
Well, I find animals in particular fascinating. And part of that reason is because animals, I mean, as well as plants as well, but I've always perceived animals to be very colourful and to have a wide array of different colours and patterns. So one of the kind of questions that people could have is, well, why do they have such a diverse array of patterns, and what are the reasons for that? So yeah, in terms of the role of color in biology, what I would start by saying is that it is not going to be a singular thing. We're going to have multiple roles for different colors, and even in one species, there might not be a single purpose to the color that it has or the pattern that it has, which is shown in different colors. Yeah, so that would be my kind of introduction to it.
And obviously, you're a PhD student in biology. So, what made you what was the inspiration for you wanting to study the subject of biology? Because, as we know, biology is one of the sciences, along with physics and chemistry. So, why that the biological branch of science?
Yeah, well, I find biology of those three main sciences the most interesting, and a lot of it is to do with animals in particular. Even though there are lots of other different organisms which study in biology, like plants and fungi. And another kingdom called protists as well, and then we also have bacteria. But I find animals particularly interesting, and part of the reason for that is, as I said, the variety of colours that animals have. Now, that's not to say that plants don't have the same kind of array of colours and other organisms, but I think the fact that and as we are animals and we are more closely related to animals than the other groups, and looking at their behaviour and how that is associated with color, I find particularly interesting. So that's the reason that I'm interested in biology, and mainly it's more to do with the zoology, the animal study of animals.
And obviously, with you say, obviously, humans, we are animals as well. Like we originate from, mammals and everything. So what role in sort of like humans play a big role in biology? It's how we reproduce. And so what is the human side to biology like compared with the other animal side of biology?
Well, there's lots of similarities in terms of behaviors. So things like innate behaviors, so things that the animals are born with, as opposed to being learnt. So yeah, we display lots of innate behaviors. You can see that in things like babies and kind of reflexes that we have. Things like taking, if we put our hand on a hot pan, it's not something that our reaction to that kind of moving it away quickly is not something that we learned. Um, but yeah, I mean, humans have been quite distinct in terms of their, say, increase in brain size compared to other animals, and in terms of it's not something that's really distinct for us, but things like tool use, which we've developed well. We do see that in other animals as well. So things like chimpanzees, we see tool use in, but and we see it in things, and even in fish, things like that. But yeah, humans are seem to be far more developed in terms of those sorts of things, and in terms of actually migrating to other places and settling. So those are some of the things that kind of make humans distinct.
And I suppose when we talk about humans and biology, obviously, how humans have developed over the centuries and the different time periods. Because obviously, as humans, we started off as, like mammals, and then we grew into men and women, and we lived in caves, and then we lived in, like, houses. And so what's that like to study?
It's fascinating, yeah. So people who have yeah, studied the history of humans and how they've evolved, and what we can actually find from humans, and the kind of remains from actually studying different sites, being able to look at the skeletons, sometimes being able to actually see the DNA, and things like seeing sites where humans have actually used fire, for instance. So, fire use is quite an interesting aspect of humans. It's quite a distinct thing compared to other animals in a way. And the kind of artwork as well, like cave drawings. So that's a really fascinating aspect to look at with humans. And of course, we are a surviving species of human, because if we go back, 100,000 years and longer than that, we did actually have other human species that existed. So one of them is the Neanderthals, which are considered there's a little bit of debate, but they are generally considered a different species, and it's interesting to compare them to what we call modern humans, Homo sapiens, and yeah, just seeing many similarities, but there are also some distinct differences in things like language and diet, for instance, as well. So yeah, we can find out all sorts of things about different human species and how similar they are to us modern humans, but also their differences as well.
And sort of the final thing that we wanted to discuss, because I'm no expert on biology, but like I say, it's I'm really glad that we've collaborated, because, like I said before, I like to invite people on the show who have, like, a bit of an educational background, where we can talk about different things, because we can learn from each other. So, obviously you're a PhD student yourself, studying biology, and where can that sort of lead, after you've completed that PhD, and why would you recommend study a PhD in biology?
Well, so where it could lead is firstly to somewhere which isn't too distant from where you're doing a PhD. So you could continue doing research at a university, for example. So it wouldn't be, for some aspects of it, wouldn't be very different to what you do in a PhD in terms of reading literature and conducting research. Um, so that's one part, and you can go into that area. But also using those expertise, you could go into areas of consultancy. So because I'm particularly interested in education and biology education, there are possibilities in places like the Department of Education, or working with exam boards is another possibility. But then there's also things like teaching. So you could use that experience to then kind of improve things when you go into a teaching role, say in a secondary school. So those are some of the things that you could go into having done a PhD. I'm sure there are lots of others. But yeah, why I would recommend it is that if someone is particularly interested in being very, very focused on a particular area, and they want to improve certain skills like being able to read literature and collect data, and analyze data, then a PhD is somewhere where you're really stretching yourself in terms of doing that. So yeah, so those are some of the reasons why I would recommend doing a PhD. If you're really interested in a subject, it's a great thing to be able to do, and to work with people, for instance, tutors who can really give you some excellent advice that wouldn't otherwise be available.
Yes, I'm going to leave it there though, because when you've touched on, education and teaching, and obviously that will lead us very nicely on to episode 3, where we're talking about, your experience of being a private tutor of English and maths. So I think it's a good sort of endpoint now to sort of lead on to the next episode next week. So if you could stay on a few minutes after I finish recording, because I would like to ask you something, but it'll only take 2 minutes.
That's
So
fine.
thank you everybody for tuning in, and join us next time for the third and final instalment in this mini series. Thank you. Um,